Hello, good morning. It's Friday, November 8th, and I'm Rob, that developer dad, and we're building stuff with C Sharp and .NET. Um, so this week has been about moving from using SQL database for all of my applications, data storage and stuff like that, over to Azure Table Storage. The modular design that I created way back in July allowed me to do that fairly major change in the span of only a couple of days, with I think maybe having to change a dozen lines of code throughout the rest of the application. I obviously had to rewrite the components, the resource components, to use Azure Table Storage instead of SQL Server. That was a decently sized lift, but as far as integrating that change throughout the rest of the application, in total, it probably took me maybe an hour. Not bad. So that's score one for the iDesign method, in terms of actually giving me real agility in my application development process. The user experience consequence from making this shift is an improvement in application start time after a period of inactivity. Let's say nobody's using the app for a few hours and then somebody logs in. Under the SQL Server, the free SQL Server tier I was using, the startup time was sometimes between a minute and 2 minutes. And by moving over to Azure Tables, I dropped that to a couple of seconds, maybe a second and a bit. And that's regardless of how long it's been since somebody accessed the software. Third is the cost. To have my SQL Server data store running 24/7, giving me that type of response time, was going to cost me somewhere between $300 and $400 a month before I even had any data in it. With Azure Tables, I think 10 gigs of storage, that's 10 gigabytes of storage, is going to cost me somewhere between 40 and 50 cents a month. And that's more than enough space to store all of the customer data that I have to store, as well as the information that they create and want to store, for quite a while. And it gives me a whole lot of flexibility in terms of those quotas that I'm so worried about. The cost to store 100 NPCs is going to be significantly less than it would have been if I were going to continue using a SQL Server based thing. Now, I could get away with this because I don't need the relational database capabilities that SQL Server or Postgres or MySQL provide. If I do need to go back to a relational database in the future, I'll probably explore Postgres instead of SQL Server. I chose SQL Server initially because it's what I'm used to. I've been an enterprise developer for 20 plus years, and that's pretty much what's used in any of the .NET shops for data persistence. Hey, good morning, Rev. I'm just sort of going over what I've done so far this week, and reviewing the actual material benefits of having an architecture for your application. And when I say architecture, I'm drilling right down to the how the code is architected, rather than, well, we're going to use Redis and we're going to use this and we're going to use that, and then we're going to string them all together with gRPC, and then everything else is the programmer's problem. And that's not architecture to me. Architecture is not creating a pick list of Azure services or, other vendors' technologies, and saying, well, and then the developers will just glue all that together and it'll be great. Um, no, no, we need, as a developer, I want more guidance from my architect. And as an architect, I want to wrap an easy button around all of these decisions I make so that the developers on my team are focused on solving the actual problems that the system is supposed to solve instead of scratching their head wondering how to tickle the widgets to make them go. I want to have that widget tickling stuff as baked into some kind of framework as possible so that they can be focused on the actual real things we're trying to do. Code twiddling is expensive because developers are not low-priced resources, nor should they be. So I want them focused on using their very expensive talents to solve very lucrative problems rather than twiddling bits, so to speak. So let's dive in. We're almost ready for go live. Almost. I've got a few things that I need to fix. Number one, I realized over the past week or so that these quota amounts are really, like, they're accurate, or as accurate as they can be given when they got brought in and stuff like that. They will be accurate for somebody starting from zero. But they don't really have any effect on somebody's ability to generate AI details or store an NPC or what have you. So I need to link that in somehow. So let's dive in. And this is the application running on Azure in Safari rather than running from code. I deployed all of the stuff that I did. And it looks like the usage is taking a minute to, oh yeah, it's probably just not synced properly. So that's another issue that I want to cover. And the AI prompt, I'd like a little bit more detail than what I'm getting back here. So let's think. That loading usage really, there we go. That's better. That's more like it. So let's think about on the new NPC page. Let's focus on whether these buttons are enabled or not. So I'll just shut that down for the time being. Main, new branch, feature / enforce quotas on constrained activities. Create. Boop. All right. So all of this action is going to happen down in my Blazor app. And inside the partials, we've got view NPC attributes. So options panel as string. Okay, so there's that. And I should probably look for the options panel. Where the heck is that? Oh, it's here. Duh. And it's that add toggle text. I also need to very quickly. No. This is all about enforcing the things. So save button is handled, AI button is handled. And let's go to the definition on this. Pull this over here. Come on, over you get. I don't need the menu. So first thing I want to do is rename this. Rename. And let's say is save button visible. And I want to take a look at the Razor page as well. And for that, we got to scroll all the way back down here. Okay, good. That renamed. And then down here, oh, you know what? The save button also needs to be in that authorize view. Now let's go to the definition on this guy. And how did I name that? Is AI button visible? Oh, undo that. Undo, you fool. Rename. Is AI button visible? There we go. So we'll come back over here, come into this definition. Now, instead of just a lambda expression or an expression bodied property, I'm going to grab this, put that into my paste buffer. And we're going to define a get. Bool make visible equals false. Return make visible. V. Make visible equals and I'm just going to surround that expression with parentheses for readability. So the on-click handler for the button has to have a handler. That's rule number 1. Var, because I don't know what it is yet. Storage quota equals app state. That's a type. Do I have any kind of app state provider in here? View NPC attributes. All this stuff. Current NPC, age, appearance. Yeah. I do not have access to the application state in here. I don't think. No, sir, I do not. That's okay. Usage information. Div class quota container is ready. Loading usage. Let's look at the code behind on this. User limits model on parameters set async. Okay, so I need an app context, and that's a cascading parameter. So let's grab this guy. I really need to tidy up this darn code, because this is messy. Messy. Uninitialized. I guess we'll drop this in here. Pardon me. Cascading parameter. I don't know if I need to name that or not, but let's spin it. And I'm going to come down to my property setting and getting toggle text, option panel visibility, event handlers, more event handlers. Here we go. Ooh. App context. Has quota equals app context dot get user limits dot app context equals null. Does not equal null. Because we're going to have to do a perform some kind of operation on that. But for now, I just want to check and see if that comes in. Because I'm going to have to probably review how I injected it down through all of the things that need it. All right, let's go to NPCs. App context exists. Good, good, good. So at least the object exists. Good stuff. Continue. Continue. This sure is executing a lot. All right, let's view this NPC. Oh, no, wait. It's not that one that I want. It's on this one. Okay. So it's visible. Fine. Now, I do have an app context. So what do I get out of that app context? Var user stuff, and I'll name that something better in a second, equals app context dot get user limits. I believe that's an async. It sure is. Dot result. Null. Var storage quota equals user stuff dot NPCs in storage var available storage slots equals storage quota dot budget. What do I have in there? Unit budget minus storage quota dot consumed units. Is that the right name? Sure is. So as quota equals available storage slots is greater than 0. Now, it seems a little silly that I would have to do that math every time I want to calculate this. So go to definition. And this is all within the app models. So we'll go to the definition on this. Set values. Public int. Available quota. We'll just add a little shortcut there. Because doing that where I need that available quota just feels silly. So user stuff, app context, result. dot NPCs in storage. And it will be an int dot available quota 0. And we'll put the null coalescing operators all the way out. And int storage available. Get rid of this. Storage available is greater than 0. There we go. So that's that. Now, I don't like the way this is working. And why is that? I don't need to reassign it down here. That's silly. So right now it's checking, checking, or getting ready to check, checking, and then I could do it like this. Make visible and has quota. But if this is false, why the heck should I do all this work before I can return? If make visible equals false, return false. And why even assign that property? Now, that's checking the opposite condition that we want. So if save NPC clicked is not assigned a event handler, we're going to bounce. If storage available is less than or equal to 0, we're going to bounce. Save. And then this can go away. Return true. Yeah, that works. Now, this doesn't lock people out if their subscription expires and they still have quota left. And I'm on the fence there. If somebody says, hey, stop billing me after this month, and they still have some quota for storage or AI generation, I'm not going to take the M&Ms that they bought back. I'm going to let them, I feel like I should let them keep using them. But that also feels like it's opening me up for abuse. We'll see. I might come back on that. So, is AI button visible? We got to do the exact same thing that we did. And I'm just going to copy that out to my clipboard. Set up a get property. If, paste, rather than setting variables and all that stuff, I'm just going to do it nice and easy. Return true. Yep. Paste, rename, generations available, and instead of NPCs in storage, I am going to use NPC AI descriptions. And there we go. Pardon me. So let's spin this up. Come in here. Let's refresh. Oh, I think I crashed some stuff. I absolutely crashed some things. That async call is screwing me. I bet that's that. I bet that's what it is. Let's comment these guys out for now. All right, spin it up. Let's see if that has any effect. Let's go to NPCs, and we're good in it. We're good there. Let's go into new NPC. All right. Now, purely for science, uncomment that. I bet it's going to freeze. And that means I'm going to need to do something a little different. Oh yeah, that's frozen. So how do we get this information? Oh, bite me. If app state loaded. This is my app state provider. App context. Okay, that's my container context. Uninitialized async. Okay, current user. Excuse me. So get user limits. Why is that async? Key equals that. Retrieve item is user limits model. If model equals null, you're going to get the current user. Load user limits is async. And it's async all the way out. Return model. Thinking. I obviously can't do that as a synchronous thing. Pardon me. Let's try. Let's see if it's actually doing all this nonsense. Okay, so model is definitely null. It's happening in that app context. Okay, yeah, whatever. Stop. You doofus. Just continue. Okay, current user. User ID is that. And yeah, that's fine. Oh yeah, I blowed it up good. Okay. So that's being called a whole bunch of times. And I almost feel like this. Context needs to be a singleton or something like that. Hey, how's it going, Barney? There's app context. App state provider is a context container. Uninitialized async. We do all this stuff. Okay. Otherwise, my app context is the browser state value. Get current user. Get user context. User context is null. Save changes async. App state load equals true. Yeah, this is getting into some aspects of code that I am not super duper familiar with. I mean, it's just C sharp. Hey, Skod, it's just C sharp, but Blazor's a little weird for me, especially when we get into like browser storage and stuff like that. Text is required. Oh, I'm trying to access a property or a method on my application context, and it's just like a custom dictionary, basically. I've got this context container thingy, and this is a custom class, and all it is basically just an object store that serializes and deserializes stuff in and out of browser storage. And context user. And I've got this context base thing. Let me go back to where I was, and I'll tell you. I'm using protected session store because I just want to put it in the basically the tabs, the browser's tab cache. Only NPCs for now, Barney. But once I'm generating stats and stuff like that, I'm targeting level 0 commoners first, Barney. But you could take a level 0 commoner and use that as a basis for the rest of your character. What render mode am I using? Let's go take a look at main layout. Just to be for sure. I might have to take a look at the app.razor as well. Yeah, okay. I don't work with Blazor very often. So head outlet, render mode, we're interactive server, pre-render false. Interactive server, pre-render false. So yeah, there's your answer. Okay, server render with no pre-rendering, okay. Protected session storage is good here, yep. I remember doing that research and determining that protected session storage is what I want because I don't want to be using like browser, like full-on browser storage. I just want to have carry a little bit of application state basically in the tab that the application's loaded into. So yeah, I think I chose those correctly. But what's happening in particular is this get user limits is an async, and I'm waiting on the result, but this is inside a non-async property. It's just a get, or I'm trying to calculate whether a button should be shown or not. And I'm running into that, as soon as you put one async method into your code, it's got to be async all the way out problem. Yeah. So this get user limits, I need a better way of grabbing this in an async fashion during the load. And unfortunately, this value changes during the user's session. So I want to go back out to where I was. Wrap it around invoke async. So this gets an invoke async. Oh, it's just hanging. I'll show you. We'll do the Homer Simpson curly straight here. So as soon as I comment out the logic that involves the async stuff, so this is without the async, and I'll just get rid of these breakpoints. We're good. Loads just fine. And as soon as I bring them back, when I navigate to the NPCs area, it just goes away and wanders around lost. So the property is on an actual Razor component, and this is AI button visible. I've got one for is storage visible as well, or is save button visible, but it's used out here to control whether or not I should show the save NPC and the excuse me, and the generate NPC button. Because if somebody's out of quota, I don't want to have them click. Now I could do this quota check inside the button handler, but I don't want to present a UI element to a user if they can't use it. Like, I don't want to have them click and then get an error message. I just want to hide it, basically. So uninitialized. Let's take a look. That's actually not a bad idea. So here's uninitialized. Now this is setting my panel visibility. I suppose I should do protected override async task on protected override on initialized async. There we go. I believe I need to make it async override. Excuse me. Now I do this. Okay. So I need to set option panel visibility. False. There we go. Now I need to set controlled button states. And that is going to be a private method. Line 59. This can go as well. All right. Thank you, Skod. I do not have years and years and years of experience with Blazor. So this is all, I welcome the assistance. All right, now I need to come down and I'm going to grab this method name. Copy that. And this guy is going to need to be awaited. And I'm going to change that to async. Now, let's come down to where I am doing these operations. And I'm going to go private async task async. Set a local flag to show hide AI button. And this is just reminders to myself. So grab this, copy, private async task bool get AI button visibility V, and I'm going to rework that in a minute. And this is going to collapse up to get private set app context. So what I'm going to need to do here is var user quotas equals await app context dot get user limits. Nope, not what I'm going to do. Boop. What are you complaining about? All right. If user quotas is null, I could do that. I'm going to review what you just said, Skod, in just a second. And then I'll talk through that idea. Now, in generations available is going to be user quotas dot npc AI descriptions available quota yeah. If that's less than or equal to 0, we're going to bounce false. What are you complaining about? App context may be null here. If app context is null, return false. Okay. Now I can replace my question mark with a null forgiving. As a matter of fact, can I get rid of that null forgiving altogether? Oh, I sure can. Good. I don't like the null forgiving operator. Do not like it. It gives me the creeps. Also make simple fields since no property functionality is needed. Private bool is AI button visible. Actually, I do need the property functionality because I'm using it actually in the Razor code itself to determine whether I even add the button to the UI or not. Because if they shouldn't see the save button click, I don't even want it in the DOM in the browser. I'm a bit of a security freak. If Razor can still grab it. Oh, yeah, I suppose. I've fallen out of using fields and stuff like that. It is a partial class. You're absolutely right. So I could just do private bool like that. I'll come back and rename this to field stuff in a minute. So is AI button visible? Yeah, I'll bring that into, if this works, I'm going to bring it into the my naming conventions and all of that stuff in a minute. But paste that equals await get AI button visibility. There we go. So I'm going to do this first just to see. Now let's go ahead and do this. Rename. There. That's better. And I'll come out here. And good. Yeah, my symbol rename carried out here. And I actually want to step through this stuff. I really, really, really need to go into these Blazor files and to be blunt with myself, fix my shit. Because this code is, it reminds me of code that I wrote during my first 5 years as a developer. And it's funny. It's almost always the case that when you're first learning or when you start using a technology that you're not super familiar with and you're just kind of building as you go, you end up creating very, very junior looking code. And there's nothing wrong with that. Oh, son of a gun. Is this gonna work? Skod, dude. Hallelujah. That's beautiful. Thank you for pointing me in that direction, man. That is mwah. Mwah. So let's do the same transformation on is save button visible. Yes. Yeah, thank you. And it also, keeps me from ending up going broke because this is going to actually stop people's ability to perform these actions when they've used up their quotas. So I should put this down, following my pattern. Task of bool. There's the calculator. Here's the field. Here's the event handler. Here's what will become the field. Private async task of bool and get save button visibility. Now, what drives my architect brain absolutely crazy is I've got these buttons all over the darn place, and I'm going to have to alter this code frickin' everywhere unless I turn my AI button into a component and my save button into a component and embed this logic inside those components and then just drop the components in where they're needed. I'm really not used to front-end composition. Really, really not used to it. So I need to grab all this stuff. Copy. And man, I wish I had an operating budget, Skod, because if I did, I would really consider asking for a couple hours of your time to do a deep dive code review and advice session on this, especially on the Blazor code base. I'm not super worried about the back end, like from the API on back. I'm good there. I've been living in the API, like at and behind the API for decades. What's an operating budget? Any money that doesn't go to keeping my roof, car, and food in my fridge. Yeah, reviewing the Blazor code. I would love just like a 1 or 2 hour Discord call or Teams call or something like that where we share one of our screens, like my screen or whatever, and you tear it apart and tell me the right way to do this stuff. Because I'm flying blind. I'm going off a Stack Overflow, Copilot, and Microsoft Learn. And I've been doing this long enough to know that Microsoft Learn shows you the best code for a demo scenario. It doesn't necessarily show you the best code for a production scenario. And I'm shooting for production. All right, so var user quotas equals await app context dot get user limits. There's that. If app context is null, return false. if user quotas is null, GTFO, storage available equals user quotas, NPCs in storage, available quota. If it's null, we're going to set that to 0. I'm thinking soon, not when the project is finished. And I really just want to focus in on the Blazor side of things, because I know I'm doing stuff in a really, really sloppy, messy, probably wrong way in a lot of places. And I'd like access to a better education on this stuff than I can get from just finding the first thing that works on the internet. Like talking to somebody with some experience would be fantastic. Now, save button visibility is the name of the method, and is save button visible is save button visible equals await get save button visibility. And there's also some stuff that I haven't figured out how to figure it out or how to do it. So here's that. I can shrink. Okay. Actually, I should hang out a bit after I end the stream, and I will send you an invite to my Discord channel. I'm not, or my Discord server. I have that developer dad Discord server. I've not used it for anything yet, and I think it's time. I don't know that I can necessarily find you on Discord easily. So I'm going to do this. It's now a private field, and let's bring it under my naming convention. Rename. Lowercase I. Engage is save button visible. Let's test. But yeah, even without the code review, I still need to get into my component code, like my code binds and stuff like that, and just sort the damn code blocks. Because I've got properties mixed with methods, mixed with public methods and private methods, and there's no rhyme or reason. So navigating these files is very unpleasant, and I'm very disappointed in myself for having allowed that to happen. But I know how it happened, and it's because I was trying to grind out the functionality while learning the tech and just get the damn feature done in as little time as possible. And now I along the way, I created myself a whole bunch of technical debt, and now it's gonna cause me problems. And if I don't solve that now, trying to solve it 6 months from now is going to be even worse, because I'm not going to remember any of this crap. I am not as young as I used to be. So let's make sure our buttons are loading. Let's just generate one real quick. Yeah, fine. A retired arrow maker from the Dragonborn Black Dragon Flight. They're gender ambiguous, and they grew up as a sage. This should be interesting. Here's my kitty, Zurich Thaler. Well, of course they're gender ambiguous. They're covered in scales. And my buttons still work. We'll go back to the list. Cool. All right. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba. All right, I have to go through the rest of the UI and find the other buttons that should be set up in this way. Skod, thank you a whole lot. Cascading parameters, properties, fields, override methods, dispose. Yeah, that makes sense. I usually do, like you, I go dependencies at the top, um, private read only, private const, public const are at the very top. And then that looks like a very solid, logical way of organizing these code behinds. Yeah, I'm old. I'm very very old. Like going all the way back to um, MVC 3, MVC 4, MVC 5, where everything was in a code behind, or that was the practice. And I really really like having my pure C# stuff in its own file, and then my Razor stuff in its own file. That way it kind of keeps the messes, like they're both going to get messy, but it kind of keeps the messes contained into their own places. Like I could have thrown everything into an @code block down here, but then the file would be a million miles long. And even though I'm doing this on my own, I still approach constructing the actual code files and everything like that as if I'm going to be part of a team, because then I can give the Razor stuff to a Razor expert, and I can give the C# stuff, the code behind stuff, to that expert, and they're not going to be like butting heads in source control with it. So we've got that going. Thank you for the help solving that problem, Skod. I would have thrashed around on that for hours. Um, yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right with that. Like if the Razor file gets a million lines long, then that's a signal that we should probably fracture the stuff out, at the very least for readability. And much more likely is some of the stuff that you fracture out, you're going to want to use elsewhere in your application. So yeah, your reasoning there is absolutely in line with how my mind works. So yeah, I'm gonna end this session. I'm gonna be back around 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. Scott, I'm gonna ping you on Twitch, and we'll exchange information, and we'll set up a time to do a more thorough review of this Razor stuff. Cool, man. I really appreciate the offer of help, and we'll we'll also, when we discuss that, if you want to, we can actually set this up as like a streamed thing, or we can just do it privately between the two of us. Totally up to you, whatever you're the most comfortable with. You're doing me a favor. So I will absolutely accommodate whatever. So I still want to tidy that stuff up too. There we go. That's better. And yeah. So we got one of the things that I wanted to get done today, folks. I had some external assistants come in and offer his expertise, because I am not a Blazor expert. And Scott here in the chat is much more of a Blazor expert than I think I'll ever be. But we got through it. And thanks for coming in, Barney. And Rev Fry, you were in here earlier. I don't know if you stuck around or not. But thanks for hanging out. I'll be back later today. And until then, take care of yourselves. Happy coding, friends.